Hi Pablo, nice to meet you. I'm Gabriele from Italy, from Every Idol Kit. Let's start. We are all huge fans of the original franchise. So tell me, did you know the original video games before wearing Master Chief's armor?
Before wearing the armor, I certainly did, but before I got the job, I was peripherally aware of the Halo franchise. I had played it as a teenager. I didn't grow up with TV or video games, but in high school, I went to friends' houses and played, but I had only played it in versus mode. I had never played the campaign or story version, you know? So I really didn't have any idea of it as a story franchise. So when I got the job, you know, going up to 343 Industries in Seattle, where they make the games, I got the tour of the Halo Museum and got sat down and given what's called the 343 boot camp, which is just a massive information download in a short period of time. And the first thing that stood out to me was just the depth of the lore and what had been spooled out over the course of the last 20 years. You know, obviously I watched all the cinematics of the games. That was the crux of my preparation, was becoming really familiar with what had been established in all of the mainline Halo games, right? The amazing performance of Steve Downes as Master Chief, and all what's been established in the CGI look of Master Chief. I read a couple of the novels, looked at the animated shorts, the live action features, and some graphic novels. You know, there's just a massive amount of mythology that's been established, and it's not just deep, it's rich. You know, it's a really, really well thought out universe. And for me as a storyteller, you know, to have that at our disposal for subsequent seasons just felt like a really, really rich place to get to play, you know.
How was to play so many scenes with the helmet, with a mask on your face, but also how was to move and fight with that armor?
Yeah, it's so interesting, you know, when you take away a human's face. You know, we use our face so much. It's like 95% of our nonverbal communication is through our facial features, right? And so when you don't have access to the face, you read into body language in a much more subtle way. And as an audience member, also, you bring so much more of your own experience. You fill in so much of the details. So that was really part of the process and the experimentation for me, was looking at a character who had been established that way, right? The Chief is made as a first-person video game, and so you're invited as the player to fill in all of the details of his personality with your own. That's how he's created and how he's established. And so also, you know, in early scenes in the show, you're playing on that same premise, right? You're asking the audience to fill in so much of how they feel about the Chief with their own experiences. And then you're playing with that dynamic by taking the helmet off, you know. And it was really important early on, I think, for all of us as creators to get that out of the way early, because to get the audience comfortable with seeing the face of this guy, because in order for us to tell the long form version of this story, you really had to get to a place where you could take the helmet off, you could see the face, and you could see how he's feeling about things over the course of time. That's really the main tool we have in television storytelling to connect with character and to tell a personal story. And at the end of the day, for a show to go all the places that we want it to go over the course of a long form television series, you really have to have that kind of access to the character and empathy with the character that was so needed.
Okay, thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Shoren is an important character. He represents what Master Chief has always wanted to be a free man. He's a free man, but he has a conflict with John because of their different ideals. How did you work on this side of your character?
I mean, life involves conflicts every time you decide to engage with other human beings, you run the risk of there being some type of conflict. And if you have no choice but to leave your home, and you do that often enough, hopefully you will build up some resilience and the ability to navigate and understand conflicts as they arise. So my own life experience has given me many opportunities to understand conflict resolution, and also to understand that sometimes two people just not going to see things the same way, and that's normal. What makes this a little bit more challenging, as a character study, is that their conflict is deep-seated, and it goes back to their youth. And sometimes things in your youth can ingrain themselves in your mind in such a way that you have a hard time letting go of your perspective and seeing another person's point of view. This is normal as well. So I just try to be honest with whatever I was feeling, because what I was feeling is what Soren was feeling. And they both think they're right. And, and in this kind of situation, things are left open-ended. There's not necessarily any clear resolution. In the United States, we have a two-party political system where you have people who are Republicans and you have people who are Democrats. They both believe that their worldview and that their domestic view is correct. And you see very little concession between the two parties, if you will. Most of the times they're just at odds, and yet the system continues. And so that's exemplary of how Master Chief and Soren are. They both believe that their perspective about life is correct, and they operate out of that space, and there's no clear solution or answer.
Yes, these are very current topics. What were for you the main challenges of this role, if you want to tell me something more? Yeah. Sure.
For me, the physicality was challenging because the costume, the wardrobe was not easy to wear every single day was a challenge. Just getting dressed. I had to have somebody help me get dressed. So first of all, my ego took a beating. I'm 48 years old. I can dress myself, but I needed help getting dressed, man. So that's tough. That's tough on your mind right there, But what's comical is that you can get used to it by the end. At the end of the shoot, I was like, yeah, help me, and you, yes, help. I was so used to it. Anyway, so that was tough. Wearing the wardrobe and realizing that it's okay for another grown man to help me get dressed. That was tough. And the dialogue was challenging because some of the things that we referenced, they don't exist. They're 500 years in the future. So that was really particularly challenging. And it wasn't something I could really get help with. I had to figure that out on my own. How do I make this thing that does not exist real? What kind of music did I listen to in the future? I should be listening to that when I go home, but we don't know what it is. It's 500 years in the future. So there are things that, I couldn't control, which is not something that I generally am in total control of my circumference. But with this project, there were a lot of things I had to kind of just let go and just do my best and just let go. So that was hard. The physicality, my ego, and learning to just kind of like let go,
Yeah. Can you tell me something about what can we expect from Soren in the next episodes? I've seen only the first two, So where are we going?
Well, I can only tell you a little tiny bit because I don't want to ruin the experience. I will say that Soren reluctantly goes on an adventure to service a situation that has nothing to do with his own need for personal gain. He does something relatively selfless, and this is out of his character.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and congratulations. So we know that Halo is the adaptation of a glorious and historical video game franchise, but I think some topics are very current: propaganda, colonialism, militarization, experiments, and I think Dr. Elsie is in part alpha and omega of this dystopia. How did you work on this mysterious and complex character?
So I spent most of my time in the run-up to the beginning of the shoot researching books that would give me a sort of portal into her way of thinking, I suppose. I'm not a scientist. I'm fascinated by science, but that's not my background. So, and it is a very different mindset, I think. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of Max Tegmark's stuff and Nick Bostrom, and I got in touch with a wonderful woman at Stanford who's head of the AI department there, and another girlfriend who's a futurist who works at Oxford. And I got into, thinking differently, I suppose. And what happens if you are living outside of this current moral construct? Who's to say what's right and wrong? Who's to say that sacrificing a few lives for the sake of billions of future lives and saving humanity is why is that morally reprehensible? I find all of that fascinating and endlessly fascinating. You can't really get bored.
We've seen that Dr. Elsie is somehow the mother of the Project Cortana, but unfortunately we don't have all the answers yet. So what can we say? What's next?
I'm not allowed to tell you. I mean, it's interesting. I was debating this. We were just doing a junket in Austin, Texas, and everyone was laughing at me because I was saying, well, why mother? Why not inventor and creator? Dr. Frankenstein was never called the father of the monster. He It's interesting that as soon as a woman is involved, we have to find a word that we're all familiar and comfortable with. She's a terrible mother. I mean, in our what mother is. But she is an amazing inventor and creator and innovator.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
So, we all know about the relevance of the Halos franchise in the video game industry. Which were the main challenges in the creation of this TV series adaptation?
Yeah. It felt like there were a lot of different challenges. I would say I'll start with.
I can imagine.
I would say in some ways the easiest challenge is the production challenge, which is we were really ambitious with what we wanted to do. Bringing the Halo universe to life in live action and expressing that world and all of the different bits of it, knowing that it's big epic scale sci-fi, and doing that for television was a really big challenge. And I think we were very ambitious with what we wanted to do. We really looked at it as if we were making a series of feature films in terms of production value, and so there were a lot of moving pieces. So and if you add into that the COVID challenge and the COVID break, which ultimately helped us a little bit in terms of getting caught up. But I think that was I will say for me, coming into television, I feel like I've learned in the last 3 years, 20 years of TV making, just because of the scale of what we had to do. And then on the creative side, being able to service our fans in a way that feels respectful, but also have the freedom to create a story that was really optimized and really could tell this character story for television and the long form storytelling, which is why we got into it in the first place. We wanted to do television because we wanted to have 8, 9, 10 hours to tell a story about the Master Chief and about John, and to really let the world sort of unfold over the course of a lot of time. And so being able to serve the fans, letting the story breathe, letting the character arcs sort of go on the path they needed to, and on top of that, also express the universe in a way where we can have new audience come in and understand what Halo is about.
How was 343 Industries involved in the creation of this project, and how did you work with the differences between the video games and TV series?
We were very involved. We have a small team, franchise team, back at the studio, who are the keepers of canon and all of our resources and reference materials. And so myself and Frank O'Connor and Bonnie Ross all served as executive producers on the show. I was on the ground, and even before that in pre-production, really working with the showrunner and the directors and the cast and everyone to have those conversations when we needed to steer away from maybe how we told a story in the past. But for me, my focus was, how do we stay true to the spirit of Halo? And as we go on this creative journey and work with this amazing creative talent, how do we do that in a way where we're expressing the world of Halo, not just putting a bunch of Halo objects on the screen? Because that wasn't the goal. It's not a, let's take a snapshot of the game and just move it over.
Great. I don't know what you can tell me about this topic, but are you watching to the future? Maybe a season 2 or spin-off?
I don't think we're quite in the spin-off space yet, although there is a character I love dearly. So I do talk about a spin-off of that character, but we are, so season 2 is confirmed, which is great. So we're very much in progress on season 2 on the creative writing side. I think with season 2, we're figuring out where we pick up, and that is really focused on what do the next 2, 3, 4, or 5 years look like in story.
Okay, thank you very much, and congratulations. I'm very excited to see where are we going. So
Excellent.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.